What's up YouTube, Dylan here on the edit/voiceover. If you're new to the channel, we have 60 acres, most of it is woods, and we're building a motocross track. For the last 9 months we've been stockpiling timber, using the grapple to make a nice neat pile out of it. We have a bunch of different locations, but this one has the most, so we're going to start with it. We have the goal of seeing how much chips we can actually produce in a single day rental. It was $420 to rent it for the day, and it's a Vermeer BC1000XL that'll let you chip something up to 12 inches in diameter. That was all of the wood that we had stockpiled in the lower pasture. We estimated that pile to be somewhere in the neighborhood of about 20 yards of chips. From here we're heading up the hill where we have 3 more locations yet to chip. This was our first time running a wood chipper, so we weren't sure what the limits of the machine were. We quickly found 2 different things it doesn't like. The first being old dead timber that's petrified. It just would start smoking the belt. The other thing we learned it didn't like is vines and small branchy twigs. Those managed to clog up the chute, so we ended up having to take the whole thing apart to get it unjammed. The chipper has a top access panel that lets you get in and see the knives, and you can spin it around and unclog all the chips that are jammed in there. There's also an access door on the bottom that you can open up to clear chips that are jammed in the drum. We did both those, and then we tried firing up the machine, only to realize that our problem was actually that the chute was clogged. Taking the chute off is easy if you know what you're doing. You just need to remove 2 bolts and one of the brackets, specifically the bracket in the front. We didn't know this at the time, so we took 2 off, swore at each other for a while, and tried to yank it off, only to realize we had to remove all 3. With the chute off, we used a stick to poke out all the chips, and then reassembled, and we were ready to go. This is one of our smaller piles at about 4 yards. The upper pasture here has 2 different piles. We're going to start here with the smaller pile. There were a number of logs in this batch that didn't get chipped. They ended up being a type of wood that the chipper just didn't like, and they were too old and petrified. This pile has already been added to the track, so we know for sure it was just about 4 yards. The other side of the pasture has quite a bit of wood stockpiled. We cut down a bunch of trees whole and fed them right through the chipper. It worked great if we could get them out of the woods that way. For most of the stuff, we had to cut it about 8 feet wide, because that's about as wide as we could fit through the woods to get the stuff out. We knew the grapple on the tractor was going to be important, but we had no idea just how useful it would be. For some long things, you could actually angle directly in and feed them into the chipper, but for the most part, it would just grab stuff, drop it on the input tray, and then we would feed it in by hand. This pile ended up being 8 yards of chips. You can see in the pile we got all different kinds of woods in here. Some are hardwoods and some are softwoods. We also didn't learn our lesson the first time and tried to feed in all the small little bits and pieces at the end of the last pile and clog the chute. We ended up having to pull the chute and unclog it again. This is our final pile of timber, all stuff that we pulled out of the woods as we've been expanding the track. There's also some full trees hiding in the tall grass there. Outside of the few problems we had where we clogged the machine or we ran something that was too old and petrified and kind of smoked the belts, this thing ran awesome and ate everything that we threw at it. We spent a full day loading stuff through the chipper, but only ended up using 6 hours on the machine of the 8-hour rental. We managed to get through all the wood that we had stockpiled, so that was good enough for us. This final pile ended up at about 8 yards as well. So in total, we ended up with a bit over 40 yards of chips for a full day of running the machine. We won't have enough to chip the entire dirt bike track, but we'll have plenty to chip the important corners. We've already spread half the chips into corners on the track, so we'll have a video on that dropping soon. Stay tuned.